Hello, Wes Lee here with the Mesonet weather report. Finally, a little bit of moisture was received statewide last week. Unfortunately, for most of us, it came in the form of a very dry, powdery snow. An old rule of thumb is it takes about 10 inches of snow to equate to an inch of water. That is only true when it falls when temperatures are near freezing. In colder conditions like this time, it takes many more inches to get an inch of water into the soil. This rainfall map for a week from Wednesday was mostly capturing the snow as it melted, with the exception of cold rains that fell in the far southeast. You can see the numbers were very small in most of the western counties where the drought is the most severe. This map is the 10-inch fractional water index before any of the snow fell. Great conditions in the east, but dire in most of the west. After the snow melt, as seen on this map from Wednesday, you might be able to see some very slight improvements, but little to none in the worst drought-hit areas at this depth. I want to leave you with some hopeful news that next week will possibly have some rainfall in it, as seen by the green on this forecast map. Gary is up next with the monthly rainfall maps.
Thanks, Wes, and good morning, everyone. Well, I think the question on everybody's mind is how much did the rain, snow, and ice help? Let's take a look at the new map and we can find out. Well, the improvements on the new map are really confined over in far eastern Oklahoma, where 1 to 2 inches of liquid equivalent precipitation fell. Now, some of that was rain, some of it was ice, some of it was snow. So we did see a reduction, especially down in LaFleur and McCurtain counties, where we got rid of some of that even extreme drought, the red color. Now across the rest of the state, we were just on the borderline between making improvements, but we kept it status quo over much of that area, simply because the deficits are just too much over the last 30 days to really up to 6 months. And we can take a look at that 30-day rainfall on the Mesonet maps. Here we see, this is mostly what came from this last storm, actually, because we haven't had a lot of precipitation. And you can see those green areas over across far eastern Oklahoma. That's where we saw the improvements. Now, when we got to those darker blues and lighter blues, we really just kept it more status quo, especially across west central Oklahoma, where they've only had, about 1/10 of an inch, so less than 1/4 inch of rain over much of that area, and really across much of the northwestern quarter of the state. But really nowhere across the western 2/3 of the state have gotten a lot of precipitation over the last 30 days. And over that 30-day period, everybody in the state has a deficit of some amount. Now it's more across the parts of south central Oklahoma, up into the central parts of the state, but everywhere has a deficit, so not enough to start making improvements on the drought monitor in those areas across the western 2/3 of the state where the deficits are so much larger over the long term. Now, those longer-term deficits are exemplified by the consecutive days with less than 1/4 inch of rainfall map from the Mesonet. Again, the western 2/3 of the state, much of that area goes from 90 to more than 160 days without 1/4 inch of rain in a single day, and that's indicative of the drought conditions across those areas. We have had some improvements in this map across the eastern parts of the state, but simply not enough over most areas. Okay, this first storm in February was a good start. Now we need a few repeat storms. We'd rather not have the ice, but some rain and even snow would help, and hopefully we can start getting those storms in succession as we start getting later into February and then into March when spring starts to come around. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.